Well, the weather's absolutely miserable outside. So today I thought I'd just have a look at pike fishing, or my experience of pike fishing anyway. And the changes which I think are for the better, in particularly when it comes to hooks and traces. Years ago, when I first had a look at this was sort of a standard rig. There were sort of two treble hooks, all barbed, and one hook in the tail of the fish and one hook down the flank. And the pike tends to swallow the fish head first. And the question was when to strike. If you strike too quickly, you pull the fish out of the pike's mouth and you don't hook it. If you struck too late, then these treble hooks here on the flank of the fish would either have disappeared through the opening between the mouth and the stomach, or get caught in the gill arch and invariably break one with profuse bleeding. And you often used to see people holding up pike with blood running down the flank, absolutely appalling. And the margin of error between that and that is very small in terms of time. And it didn't matter how good you were, how often you'd been pike fishing, invariably you'd end up with a deep hooked pike. And then the unhooking problems that came with it. Trying to remove these barbed hooks from the gills, or even worse, down into the stomach. And more often than not, you'd have to cut the trace and leave the fish in the hook with its hooks, attached hooks inside the pike, hoping that the pike would survive. I mean, it might swim away quite well, but these hooks here will have penetrated the wall of the intestine, the wall of the stomach, and the stomach contents would start to leak into the body cavity of the pike, which invariably would kill it, albeit a few days later. So these, I thought was just absolutely brutal. And the other thing about them is, of course, even if hooked in the mouth, when the pike's in the net rolling around, these barbs, hooks get caught up in the net, and you end up having a real mess on trying to remove the barbed hooks from the mesh of the net, particularly if you were using soft mesh nets as opposed to these rubberized nets. Well, I wasn't really happy with it at all, and it put me off pike fishing. And the other thing was that this wire, which is nice and straight on this newly made pike trace, after 2 or 3 pikes jumping out of the water and rolling around, this wire used to become kinked. It was almost impossible to straighten it. And then later you got treble hooks, which only one of the hooks had a barb in it, which was the one you inserted into the fish. So these two on the outside were not barbed at all. That certainly helped in reducing the damage to the fish. But still, when you struck hard on a fish, particularly if it was deep hooked, again, these things would do incredible damage to the gill arches. And if this hook here ended up inside the pike's stomach, again, it was a major problem. So, a slight improvement, but still, for me anyway, I still found it quite a sort of brutal experience. Soft wires began to appear. This is orthonic wire, which is less liable to kink, but nevertheless it did kink in the end. But you could straighten it just by pulling it. Nevertheless, it's still kinked, as you can see. Well, use these big treble hooks put me off pike fishing. And, but recently, there has been a move to use what they call circle hooks, just single circle hooks. And what exactly is a circle hook? Let's have a look at them. I've got two examples of them here. This one is probably the most popular one. The mustard, demon, and I've also got the one there from partridge. Just get one of each out and have a look at them. So here I've got three hooks. This is what they call a J hook, for obvious reasons. It looks like the letter J. And these two are what are called circle hooks. And you'll notice how this point is parallel with the shank of the hook. Whereas with these two, you'll notice they have an inturned point, almost at right angles to the shank of the hook. And you think that would be a big disadvantage when it came to hooking fish. But it becomes clearer when you understand how these things work. Two other things you might come across if you're looking into this is these things called octopus hooks, which have absolutely nothing to do with catching octopus. It's because they've got this outturned eye. And they're usually tied using a snell knot. Let's take this mustard hook. You'll notice that the hook point and the shank of the hook are in line. Which I'll mention later. Whereas with this partridge hook, you'll notice that the hook point and the shank of the hook are offset. I'll just tie a couple of these up and then try and explain how they work. To tie these traces, I've got this soft strand microfilament stainless pipe wire, which you can knot, but I prefer using crimps. It's incredibly fine, as you can see there. Which means you can use these incredibly fine crimps. So this is £20 soft strand wire. It comes in various strengths. You've got hooks, slim crimps. I've got 2 size 8 rolling swivels and 2 crimp covers. Well, I've tied 3 traces. This one where the hook is tight. This one where the hook is sort of flexible. And this one which is tied on a sort of loose loop. Just put a little bit of shrink tube on there, just heated it to seal that, to cover that crimp. Well, having looked at lots of videos on the internet about this, there are differing opinions about whether the hook should be loose, like these two, or whether it should be stiff, like that. Only time and experience will tell which one is best. You'll notice that the 3 hooks I've chosen all have a straight shank. The octopus hook, the one with the outturned eye, is normally tied with a snell knot, which is a sort of form of knotless knot. Although you can put a tuck in which strengthens it. But I'm not sure how well it works with wire. It's normally tied with mono, exceedingly strong mono. Particularly in the United States, they like it, especially for fishing for big fish in the sea. And the other thing is, they don't have an offset point. The reason being that if you're using a circle hook, you want to make sure that the point is up near the scissors. Sometimes if you're using an offset hook, as the hook is drawn back through the mouth, it catches the side of the mouth and embeds itself there, which you don't want. So, straight shank and inline hook points is what I've chosen. Well, having made these traces, let's go and see how they work, for which we need a visual aid. They were designed for sea fishing. And this inward turned point is designed to penetrate the jaw of the fish as it's swimming away from you. So when you catch a fish in the surf and it bolts to the open sea, this is designed to hook the jaw of the fish as it swims away. So the bait fish, in this case a sardine, is hooked in the tail, and normally this is cut off so that they don't get in the way, the tail fin as it were. And this is my visual aid. This is the lower jaw and this is the scissor here. So the pike normally swallow the bait head first. So that travels down into the pike's cut, and as it swims away, the line is drawn round the scissor like that. Folds round, and the hook lodges in the jaw there. That's the theory. If the fish is the other way around, like so, so the circle of the hook pulls that inward point into the jaw of the fish. This loose loop seems to work better. There's no crimp or crimp cover to catch on the jaw there. And the other big advantage from my point of view is there's no big hook at this end of the fish, so you're far less likely to deep hook the fish, causing damage. Well, the question that comes to mind is, how do you fish with a circle hook? Well, when you're fishing with normal trebles, when the fish picks it up and begins to move off, you normally strike really heavily to set the hooks. It's not a gentle procedure at all. Now if you do that with circle hooks, you're just going to pull it straight out of its mouth, the fish is gone. When you're fishing with circle hooks, you hope the fish is going to swim away from you, at least, as near as possible. If it's coming towards you, you have no chance. When the fish picks up the bait and gradually moves off, you wind down slowly, gradually tightening the line. And as the trace comes round the scissor of the jaw, the hook embeds itself. In other words, the fish more or less hooks itself, and then once it's on, you'll know about it. So, and then you can probably hit it to embed the hook even further. And with just having that one circle hook near the entrance of the mouth, you're very unlikely to get a deep hooked fish. Like all of these things, it takes a little practice. You may lose, more fish than you would normally do until you get the technique perfected. Well, there you have it. I don't know whether that helped or not. And obviously use barbless hooks. Crush the barb down. Anyway, only time will tell whether they work or not. If you're a relative newcomer to pike fishing, or just starting out, it's far better to go with someone who has a fair amount of experience in these matters. My local club, which is Lee Stasser, they have a dedicated pike anglers group who are more than willing to take newcomers onto the bank. I mean, recently they had a full day course on one of the big local rivers, demonstrating pike lures and pike rigs, but more importantly, how to handle a pike once you get it on the bank, because that's the thorny bit really. And it was an appalling day, but well, having said that, it was a better day than last year. But, and it was very well supported. And for those Leeds Data members who weren't on the course, in the membership book there's a little page there dedicated to how to handle pike. Well, wish you success with your pike ventures, but for now, take care. Cheerio.